I wake up with someone who loves me, and the first thing I do is I get up and I go to the bathroom, and I get to go and use the bathroom in privacy. I have my own bathroom, actually, at the other end of the house. She has her own bathroom. So, very different than pooping next to a stranger every day for 15 years. I have a garden, and I go water my starts and my plants, and I make sure the animals have food and water as part of that. And then I make her breakfast while she showers, and we talk. And, that's every morning. And that feels really good. I do a lot of things without thinking about it. That'd be a better question for the person who lives with me. She tells me a lot of things that, she notices that I do. I have a diagnosis for anxiety, and I have a diagnosis for PTSD, and I don't know if those are symptoms that I've developed or ones that I always had. But there's a lot of things, like she'll touch me, and sometimes I'll jerk away or react as if it's a hostile touch when it was never intended that way. And she's like, whoa, calm down, So things like that. I tend to be more alert and aware and more vigilant of things. No, I'm definitely not the same person that I was at 19. The experiences that we have shape the people that we are. You can think of it like a piece of wood, It comes from a tree. The minute you cut that tree down or it falls and it dies, it's no longer a living tree, but it's still a piece of wood. And when you cut it up and you shape it into whatever you're going to make it into, and it becomes a coffee table, it's still the tree, it's still a piece of wood, but now it's a coffee table. So it's no longer a tree, and it's no longer a piece of wood, until that coffee table gets broken, and someone decides that, there's a piece of that coffee table that looks really nice, and it would work really good to make a handle. And I turn that coffee table piece into a handle for a knife. Now I have a knife handle. This knife handle is no longer a tree. The knife handle doesn't photosynthesize, it doesn't take up water. It doesn't do the things that a tree does. It's no longer a table, but it is still a piece of wood. Since I got out, I've changed a lot since I was inside, which I changed a lot from before I went in. So before I went in, I was one way, and then I went in, and I was forced to become another way because of circumstance. And it's hard because there's patterns that you develop that are terrible. There's survival patterns, like narcissistic psychopathic tendencies that people pick up and adopt as behavior patterns that are beneficial because they help them inside, and they're not good out here. Some people would argue and say that they are, but they're not. Cooperation is much better than competition, and evidence shows that. So, having a mindset that ripping other people off to benefit yourself is good, that's a sickness. And a lot of people do have that in today's society. I don't know if it's more prevalent now, or maybe I'm just more exposed to it now as an adult. But that was something that I noticed has changed since I got out. I studied genetics. I wanted to be a genetic engineer. When I was in high school, I did an independent study project where I studied salmonid DNA. I went to the Hatfield Marine Science Center, worked with a couple of scientists there. I was one of the smarter kids, you know? I was looked at as being somebody who was gonna go places and do things. I was a kid. I robbed a grocery store. I committed robbery because I needed money. I needed money because I didn't know any better. I was dumb. I was young and I was dumb and I hadn't been educated. And I wasn't taught better ways. And that's what I ended up doing. I hope they're not traumatized. I hope they don't have nightmares. In county jail, you're scared because you're going to go to prison. You don't know what prison is like. The only thing you know is the movies. And there's, people in jail that have been to prison, and they'll tell you all the stories and stuff. And of course, they're trying to scare you because they're trying to have some fun. They're bored. They're sitting there with nothing to do all day long, day in, day out. And so, when I first got locked up, it affected me much more than it would now. It's traumatizing to have everything stripped away from you, even your clothing. And then to have someone look in your asshole and then tell you to squat and cough. You're bare naked and you can't resist. There's nothing you can do. That's what they do when they first bring you in, And that in itself is a psychological experience. And that happens constantly throughout the next 15 years. You'll be stripped naked and have nothing and be told to squat while a man looks in your asshole. And if you have a foreskin, to skin it back. And to take your fingers and run them through your mouth to make sure you don't have any contraband. A guard who's being an asshole, they'll tell you to do it in that order. So that you're pulling your butt cheeks apart and touching yourself and then putting your fingers in your mouth. So I got real good at it. I memorized the protocol. And then I just go through it without instruction. And then I just start with the mouth, Something I got real used to. But in the beginning, that's not a normal thing. That's not something they prepared you for in high school, So, you feel traumatized, you feel violated immediately right off the bat, even though nothing has happened to you that is illegal. This is the door, right here. This is where you enter, right here. And then you enter, and immediately, over here on this side, you'll have a table that I've laid out like this. And then above the table, you'll have a shelf with a label A and another shelf with a label B. And then you'll have a bunk right here. And then you'll have another bunk up here. And they'll be labeled A and B. B is bottom, A is top. That's where the magic happens. That's the toilet. And then the sink is on top. And in the back of the toilet, the stainless steel combo that you've probably seen in all the movies and TV shows. Then, in between the bed and the toilet, there is a shelf. And it's split also down the middle. And that is the hygiene shelf. And that's where you're supposed to put your hygiene products. So, after county jail, I went to Coffee Creek, the intake. And it was there that you're officially in prison. And they have showers that have a curtain. It's not like a group shower, but they're accessible to the day room, which has people out in it. And I, saw the movies. And so I prepared to protect myself. I took they give you razors. I busted the blades out of the razors and tied them to the toothbrush they give you. I took that with me to the shower because if I were going to attack someone, me, in my mind, I'm thinking about how to attack someone. The best time to do it is when they are butt naked and defenseless. So, if I'm going to protect myself, I need to be prepared for someone to attack me in such a fashion. And I was approached by a guy in the shower one time, and I went and got my knife, but he didn't know because the curtain is there, but he actually asked me to build him a cage, and I thought he meant for like a mouse, because I'd seen prison movies where people had, like, rodents for pets. I told him it was just going to chew through anything I could make it out of. And he said no for a frog. This guy had gotten some frogs out on the little yard. And the yard is just a concrete spot with no vegetation. And I had decided when I was sitting there in the cell with nothing to do, and my cellmate is sitting there staring at the ceiling, that I can't do that. If I sit and stare at the ceiling for 15 years, when I get out, that's all I'll be able to do. So I immediately started making model airplanes out of paper, and then advanced, and I used toothpaste, and I made little tubes out of the paper, and then tied them together with string that I pulled out of the towels, and I'd made a biplane like you would make out of balsa wood, and I was going to make a propeller and everything, but the guards came and got it before then. When they found it, they threw it off the tier, and it flew across the day room. Everyone was impressed, and that's when the guy came up to me in the shower later. He's like, "Hey, are you the guy that made the airplane? 'Cause I would like you to make me a cage." He wanted a cage for his frogs. I had a friend call me when I got out, and I talk to him. I answer whenever he calls because they can call. Most of the time I'll Google things for him because he has no way to look things up, because you don't have access to the internet, and it's so hard to find the information you need from a book. But he asked me about what was life like in the free world. The first thing I told him was that it was itchy. So I'd got mosquito bites and poison oak, both, for the first time in 15 years. And, yeah, I think he was a little disappointed because he's never getting out. I mean, he might get out when he's like really, really old, but he's doing life. He murdered a pedophile. But that's still murder. And you still go to prison for a very long time for that. But I'm still friends with him. He's a great guy. He did what he did, and we've all done things in our lives, and a lot of us have done worse things than that. Things that you've done make the people who they are, but they have to live with the things they've done, And if it doesn't bother them at all, then they might not be a good person to talk to. I don't know that routine helps, but routine makes every day blend into the next, and you don't realize how long things go, I guess. What I noticed? People talk about your time going fast and your time going slow, right? Because everyone wants their time to go fast so you can get out sooner, right? Which is strange to think about because out here in the free world, people don't want their time to go fast because that means you're getting closer to death. Like, people want to savor the moment. People want to live their lives. And in prison, it's the exact opposite. Nothing changes. Everything's the same. You wake up, you do this, you do that, you go to sleep, you wake up, you eat, you go to yard, you exercise, you get on the phone, you go back inside, you take your shower, you go to chow, you come back, You watch TV for a little while, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it all over again. Except your whole day is based around a 2-hour period that you get out of your cell. So think about that. The hole is disciplinary segregation unit. You don't have any property, they take away all your things, give you your asshole inspection again just to remind you that you're not human and they can do anything they want to you. You get cuffed up before you get taken down there, and then the entire time you're in the hole, you're cuffed up whenever you leave your cell. They bring your tray and serve it to you through a little cuff port in your door, and that's how you eat. And then when you go to shower, they handcuff you and walk you to the shower on a dog leash. So right before I got out of prison, I was trying to make money and settle debts and scores and help out my cellie and make money for getting out and things like that. And one of the easiest ways to do that is making what is called pruno. Pruno is homemade wine. You can make it out of anything that has sugar in it. Any kind of fruit, any kind of anything. You can make pruno in anything. It's alcohol. People will pay you money for it. So there's a system in prison to turn prison money, or canteen items, or soda tickets, or envelopes, or coffee, into real money out in the free world. So if you know those processes, you can turn sugar into money in the real world, which is what I was doing. And so, I had a batch of pruno going, and at OSP, when you get caught, you need to tell the guard that, hey, this is my stuff, not my cellmates. Never mind the fact that it was my cellmates, it was both of ours. But I took the rap so that he wouldn't go to the hole. So, because I was about to get out, and the sanction in the hole was 60 days, but I'm getting out in, I think it was 9 days? I think it was my last 9 days. So I went to the hole for my last 9 days, so that my cellie wouldn't have to spend the next 2 months in the hole. And so then I sat in the hole with none of my property, no television, and nothing to occupy my mind while I sat and dwelled on walking out of prison. So that is, the build-up to the day that I got out. I had 9 days to sit and contemplate it, and then, I don't have access to the phone in the hole. But they gave me special phone calls because I'm about to get out and I need to contact my family. So I get the special phone calls to go call my family and stuff, and they tell me about this winter storm that is happening, and they're like, we don't know if we're going to be able to pick you up. And I'm like, what? Like, how? Like, you had like 15 years to like, this is the one day I need you to be here. And they're like, we'll be there, but the roads may be closed. Like, and I'm like, so then like, what happens if I walk out into a blizzard? Like, where do I go? What do I do? So I had that fear. They cannot get to me. And I'm going to walk out into a blizzard with the clothes on my back and like whatever property I decide to keep from the prison, because I've given away a bunch of my stuff in the lead up to getting out, but I planned on giving away more, but never got the chance to because they package all your property up when you go to the hole. So I have all my property that my cellmate packed up and put, which he could have kept all my stuff if he wanted to, because he was never going to see me again. But he put all my things in there and made sure that I had them, which was great of him, but like, he could have kept things. Like, you know, there's things now that I have from prison that I don't get rid of, because I know that they would have really appreciated it in there. And now I have it, and like, I shouldn't have this. It should be in there with someone who needs it and appreciates it. Never mind the fact that you're not supposed to transfer property from one prisoner to another. It's against the rules. Oh, and I got to see 2 of my friends. They walked me from the hole, in handcuffs, in an orange jumpsuit, and I walked through the prison in handcuffs, and then I saw two of my friends going to breakfast, and they're like, hey! And I got to let them know I was leaving, I was getting out, and they stopped and gave me hugs while I'm handcuffed, and then escorted out past the crash bars, and then get to the place, and they uncuffed me. So I was too dangerous to be in the general population without the handcuffs on. But now I get to go be in the free world around everyone. They take the handcuffs off and they give me a bag of clothes, which I wasn't expecting, from my family. And so I get dressed in the clothes from my family. And so that was the first sign that, hey, they're there, so they did arrive. So I got out and my family was there and I gave my dad a hug. And he told me that was from my mom, and my brother came to get me, and I told my family that I wanted 3 things. I wanted mouthwash, like actual Listerine mouthwash, because you can't get that inside. Sugar-free lemon cough drops, because there's no sugar-free anything. And then the third thing was weed. I wanted to smoke because I knew I was going to be experiencing a ton of anxiety, and I was right. We immediately went to a restaurant. A couple of the guards that were cooler had recommended different restaurants in the area to go to. I'd seen one of them on TV, and I was very excited to go see it. Didn't get to do any of that because of the blizzard. Everything was shut down, so I get out, and we don't even stop until we get half a state away. We stop for breakfast, and we go to a restaurant my brother says is good and recommends, and we go in there, and they ask, what do I want? And I said, steak and eggs. And they said, we don't have steak. And they look at me, and they're like, well, do you want something else? And I said, no! So we got up and we left. And then we went to Denny's. And Denny's had steak, and so I got steak, and I got eggs, and I got ham, and I got bacon, and I got sausage, and it came with a hash brown, and I think pancakes, but I don't like pancakes, so fuck those. But it was just all the different meats, plus eggs and hash browns, and it was great. And then they brought me this steak knife, and I was like, wow. Like, this steak knife, I could kill someone with this. Because I've been incarcerated this whole time, where, you can go to the hole for having, a fucking paperclip, and they'll say that it's a shank, or a toothbrush. It's just a toothbrush with the head snapped off or something, because it broke, and, it's a shank now. And so now I'm holding a real knife, and it's a sturdy one with the wooden handle, and I'm like, wow, wow. Yeah. Different. Be nice to everybody. Be nice to each other. We only have one planet, and it sustains all of us. And money is artificial. Food is real. You need food to survive. Some people think you need money to get food. You really don't. There's ways to get food without money. You have basic needs that you need to survive. And beyond that, everything else is vanity and hubris and a drive to outcompete and outdo everyone else. I want to have a bigger house. I want to have a bigger car. I want to have better clothes. Are my things fancier? None of that shit is really important. What is important is the earth that sustains us and the relationships between all of the different people who are on it. So, I've been out for almost 2.5 years now, and I've accumulated a little bit of money. I've invested it, and I get a little bit of passive income that way each month, and it's enough to get by and survive on. I live with my girlfriend, and she doesn't ask me to pay a whole lot of bills, but I do a lot of the house stuff. I raise a big garden, and then I sell garden starts as a little extra side hustle. And I have lots of little hobbies, and those hobbies are all things that don't really cost money. They're things that kind of generate money. I got out, and I had to get my license again. A few months later, I got my commercial license. I was a wildland firefighter for 2 years, and now that I have my CDL and my fire certifications, I'm looking at maybe putting those together and doing water tendering, or driving a lowboy, or something of that nature. But I'm currently not working a 9 to 5. And to be honest, I kind of like that. I don't like having to show up and report and have a regimented structure to my life, because I have for a very long time. I can create my own structure, you know? I don't need someone else to provide it. Most of the prisoners get back out. Most of them don't stay there forever. So if you take a 19-year-old kid and you subject them to cruel and unusual punishment for 15 years in a hostile environment, and then they get out and they are antisocial and aggressive and picked up all these psychopathic tendencies because that's what they had to do in that environment, you're not creating a better society, you're creating a worse one. You're creating a system that feeds back into itself. Those people are going to reoffend and go back to jail and back to prison, which creates job security for these guards and for these people in the justice system. I would restore humanity. My name isn't important, but my experiences are. I spent 15 years in prison. I wake up with someone who loves me, and that feels really good.